The movie begins with a little wolf called Gracie, being chased by some wild beasts. She smartly traps them inside a tiny branch of tree and escapes. Those wild beasts are revealed to be wolves from Gracie's pack, and according to her, they were only playing games. When her grandma called Abigail hears her mention the word playing, she steps out angrily. She scolds the pack for letting Gracie outsmart them again. She had told the pack to act as a scary predator, while Gracie should act as a prey because she's just trying to teach Gracie the gold-earned survival drills. But what annoys the grandma is that Gracie isn't taking such important training seriously, but only sees it as games. Gracie is tired and bored of doing these trainings over and over again, and asks why don't they do them without her. Grandma Abigail replies that because they are a pack, and are meant to do stuffs together, it takes a whole pack to survive. Gracie tells her that the trainings and pack stuff seems pointless to her, but Grandma carefully tells her that she is only preparing them, because she believes something bad or worse is going to happen. Gracie tells her nothing is going to happen, it never does, and reminds Grandma that they live in a zoo. Just as Grandma tells her that they are completely surrounded by all kinds of dangerous enemy animals, a large truck enters the zoo and we noticed a strange animal escaping out of it. Grandma leaves Gracie saying she should mark her word, sooner or later, what she's sensing as dangerous would finally come. Later that evening, after all the humans that visited the zoo are asked to leave as it's closing time, Gracie couldn't stop thinking about her grandma's words. She is confident that nothing bad is going to happen. After all, nothing interesting ever happens here at the zoo. The scene suddenly changes as we are taken to space. A purple meteor shows up from nowhere and enters Earth. Gracie notices it falling from the sky and landing straight at the zoo. The meteor lands in a barn where some rabbits were sleeping, and the sound wakes a rabbit up. The rabbit sees the purple meteor and it mistakes it for a very delicious food. Just as the rabbit decided to have a taste of it, it suddenly begins a terrifying transformation process. Gracie curiously walks into the barn to check out the thing that had fallen from the sky. She sees a purple egg, and as she goes for a closer look, a sharp claw comes out of the egg and attacks her. Gracie manages to escape through a small window from above. She was like Grandma Abigail was right, because that definitely was something bad. Out of nowhere, a mountain lion confronts her. She tries to call her pack by making some weird movements, and this leads to her trapping herself and the lion. The lion breaks free from the trap and tries to attack her, but the zookeeper shoots dozens of tranquilizer on the lion and Gracie, making them to fall into a really deep sleep. When Gracie wakes up, she finds herself in a cage, and the lion in a different cage. She sees a lemur who is introduced as Xavier watching TV, and wonder why he isn't locked in a cage like them. He replies that whenever the humans visit the zoo they feed him, and lock him here. But, thanks to the films he has been watching here, he studied the techniques of picking locks. That's why he isn't in a cage like them. Gracie and the mountain lion argue as the lion blames her for being the reason he is locked in this cage. He appeals to Xavier to open his cage, but Gracie warns that he's a mountain lion who will eat him, making Xavier change his mind. We find out that what the mountain lion was doing at night was it was trying to escape the zoo. He tells Xavier that the zoo key is right over there and he knows how to use it. But Xavier isn't even interested in escaping because of the movies he watches here. Gracie isn't interested in leaving the zoo too, she just wants to get back to her pack and warn them about the one-armed purple pod monster that attacked her. Xavier is terrified because she described the zombie he saw in the movies he watched. On the other hand, 1 hour has passed. That rabbit that ate that purple meteor, its transformation is already complete. It transforms into a zombie with glowing eyes. Just after that, it infected all the rabbits in that barn by biting them, and they instantly turned into some scary gigantic zombies and runs to where the other animals are to infect them. Fred the gorilla hears a weird sound from outside his cage, and asks his monkey friend Felix if he's hearing what he's hearing. Fred believes something is not right, but Felix doesn't care. What was important to him at that moment was his sleep. Some zombie rabbits suddenly emerged out of the air vent, and begin to infect all the monkeys there. One tries to bite Felix, but Fred shows up and rescues him. He states out that they need a plan, but the selfish Felix uses Fred's body to escape out of the cage, while Fred ends up getting infected too. While he escapes, he sees a veterinary room, but he couldn't open it. But upon seeing something running towards him, he subconsciously opens the door and the animal is revealed to be a guinea pig called Frida, who is also on the run from the zombies. An ostrich outside called Ash tells them from the outside that they should hold the door as zombies are chasing her. But Felix and Frida tries to shut her out by closing the door, but luckily, the ostrich made it through. Ash is so furious with them for trying to shut her out, and just as they prepare to fight themselves, they get scared when they realize that a mountain lion and a wolf is on the same room with them. But they are later relieved realizing that they are caged. But when Xavier frees Gracie, they were all scared again. Felix grabs Frida and tells Gracie to eat her instead of him, but Gracie calms them down, and asks them what is going on out there. Frida replies to her that zombies now overrun the zoo. Anyway, the lion sees it as unfair because he's the only one still locked in a cage, and no one has the mind to free him. Ash tests the lion by showing it her butt, asking what she looks like to him. And the lion could not resist as he calls her a sweet delicious bird. Ash says this is exactly why carnivores must stay in their cages, but Gracie is an exception because she's skinny. Felix states out that since he is the most evolved creature here, he is taking charge, and as this leads to another argument, a loud bang at the door scares the shit out of them. Gracie goes to hold the door and asks the others to assist her, but they said her sacrifices are appreciated, and they all abandon her by escaping through the back door. The mountain lion manages to free himself and tries to help Gracie hold the door, but he mistakenly ends up shooting himself with another tranquilizer. Gracie manages to push the unconscious lion to the back door, and lock it before the zombies could get to her. After that, she proposes a deal with the lion who introduced himself as Dan. She wants Dan to be her bodyguard and if he helps her get to her pack, and she will give him the zoo key in exchange. Dan has no choice but to agree to the deal. On the other hand, Felix, Xavier, Ash and Frida are finding it hard to pass a zombie deer without it noticing them. Unfortunately for them, Ash steps on a toy, and this makes a loud sound that gets the zombie attention. Xavier uses the toy to lure the zombie away from them, and they all escape through the other side. Meanwhile, some zombies comes out from the air vent and attacks Gracie and Dan. They are able to make it outside. Dan tells Gracie to listen up, it's more dangerous out here than he thought, so she is gonna have to do things his way. They notice something mysterious coming after them, but it turns out to just be a baby hippo called Poot. Poot is just a cub who will never make it out here on her own, so Gracie decides to tag her to her team to protect her. Anyway, Dan succeeds on finally taking Gracie to her pack, but unfortunately, they are all zombies now. Just as they get surrounded by the wolf zombies, Dan tells her they gotta run, but Gracie tells him to go without her. She belongs to them, but Dan grabs her and the baby hippo and runs really fast as the zombie chase after them. As for Felix and his group, they think of ways they can escape from the zoopocalypse. Ash suggests that the safest thing to do is to stay put until sunrise. The humans will return by then and save them. Felix mocks Ash saying she has a tiny brain, and she couldn't take it anymore because he has called her that many times. This leads to a fight in their group. Meanwhile, just as Dan tries to locate the gates of the zoo, Gracie feels she doesn't have any purpose again. Now she understands that a wolf is nothing without her pack, but Dan tells her she owes it to her pack to keep going. As promised, he got her back to her pack, and tells Gracie to give him the zoo key. This almost leads to a fight between them. Just as Felix and his group are still busy fighting, they accidentally turned on the zoo lights. Dan and Gracie realize they have been surrounded by zombies all these while. They get attacked, but Dan defends Gracie and the hippo all by himself. During this fight, Felix and his group notice them from inside a room. Felix noticed that Dan is with the key to the zoo gate. Without the team noticing, he abandons them and goes to try and steal the key from Dan to escape the zoo. Gracie and Dan get into a more bigger problem as they engage in a fight with a zombie gorilla. For the first time, Gracie and Dan teamed up, and unity proved to be strength as they defeated the gorilla zombie. Just as Dan compliments her that she's got some pretty good moves, the gorilla zombie reveals to be still not to be dead, and the terrifying thing is that it came back stronger, as it transformed to a gigantic monster. It tries to eat Grace, but Dan sacrifices himself to save her. He defeated the zombie, but he got bitten by it, making Dan to turn into a zombie too. He attacks Gracie and in the process of her escape, they both end up falling into a dark room where the chase continues. Gracie manages to trap him in a foamy bathtub where he started to suffocate to his death. Although he's a zombie trying to hurt her, Gracie still doesn't want to let him die because he's still a friend to her. He pulls Dan out of the tub, but to her surprise, Dan wasn't a zombie anymore. Just as Dan is surprised on how good a friend Gracie is for not abandoning him, even though he was a zombie, Gracie realized that it was when Dan drank the soap and water, he returned back to normal. That means, soap and water is the cure. Now she knows how to save the pack and the whole zoo, but they are going to need Xavier and his group, but Dan tells her they can't trust them and they don't need them, because they have the key. Gracie asks Dan that what if the only way is to trust others and working together. Dan tells her that when it comes down to it, everyone is on their own, even him and her. He tells her he's not a coward, but he is not stupid enough to think he can save everybody. Gracie asked him if she was stupid when he was drowning in the soap and water and she saved him. Dan says yes she is. This breaks Gracie's heart, and she handed over the key to him, telling him that if she's so stupid, he should just try and save himself. Dan takes the key, and from that moment, the two friends separated from each other. Just as Dan heads towards the zoo gate, Felix shows up out of nowhere and steals the zoo key from him. Dan catches him, but Felix begs Dan to take him with him. If they were stuck with those other fools, they wouldn't be here by now. Felix adds that, let them just use the key to get out of here because they are both survivors, they are the same. Dan realizes he made the wrong choice abandoning Gracie, he drops the key for the monkey, and goes to find Gracie. Meanwhile, Gracie reunites with Frida, Ash and Xavier, who are shocked to see her still alive. Gracie is sure that this zoopocalypse might not end bad for them, because she has a plan. Soap and water is what it takes, but Ash doesn't want to risk her life to save other animals. Gracie suddenly gives a very inspiring speech, and this made all of them to be really interested in her plan. Immediately, they proceed to the plan. First is that she will get something to attract the monsters, next is Frida and Poot will quietly get the soap, and then Ash should make the zombie elephant beast to chase her, and for Xavier, he stands before a charging elephant with a rope. Meanwhile, Felix finally arrived at the zoo gate, he tries to use the key to open the gate, but he is stopped by a large number of zombie frogs. They all pounce on him to turn him into one of them. On the other hand, Gracie manages to lure all the zombies into a narrow area to pour them the soap and water, but it seems there might not work again because Frida and Poot, who are with the soap, are surrounded by zombies. At a very critical moment, Dan shows up and rescues every one of them. He pushes the soap to where Gracie lured the zombies, while Xavier uses his rope to control a zombie elephant into breaking a water tank. The tank releases a massive water, and as it mixed with the soap, a large amount of foam covers all the zombies. Just as Gracie and her friends celebrate thinking it worked, the zombie animals merge themselves together and forms a very huge massive beast. This time almost all of them didn't make it, as they are turned into zombies as well. Gracie feels bad and blames herself for everything. Because of her, her idea didn't work. Dan would have been safe in the wild right now if he hadn't made the mistake of believing in her and her ideas. Dan tells her that he has made few mistakes in his life, but believing her isn't one of them. A zombie Poot approached them and she accidentally hits a music box. Just as the music starts to play, Poot suddenly transformed back to her normal self. Gracie realized that soap and water was never the cure, it was music. But before they could manifest the plan, the giant zombie infects Dan. Now it's left for Gracie to do this all by herself. She manages to on a very loud speaker, and it begins to play a music. This seems to be working as everyone starts turning back to normal, and they all join Gracie to sing the music, as the rest goes back to normal too. And that was how the movie ended.